Get the unmissable news stories of the day.
This is the Beijing Hour.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday, March 26, 2026. You're listening to the Beijing Hour, coming to you live from the Chinese capital. On today's program, China's top legislators addressed the opening plenary of the Boao Forum for Asia, calling for dialogue to resolve conflicts and respect for diversity. Iran says it's had no direct ceasefire talks with the U.S., calling Washington's claims about negotiations an admission of defeat. The UN General Assembly's adopted a draft resolution on slavery and reparations. In business, a Chinese expert says artificial intelligence requires human partnership. In sports, checking out the opening round of Miami Open. In culture and entertainment, Chinese movie locations continue to draw tourists from all over. Now the day's top stories. The opening plenary of the Boao Forum for Asia is taking place in the southern island province of Hainan. Addressing the occasion on Thursday morning, Chinese top legislator Zhao Leji called for dialogue to resolve conflicts and respect for diversity. As the forum turns 25, it's once again bringing together global leaders and experts as it charts new pathways for shared development. Dai Kai has more from the scene.
He actually said that the world is facing growing instability and uncertainty from rising protectionism to geopolitical tensions. He urged everyone to uphold true multilateralism and also strengthen cooperation, both regional and global, finding common grounds, even as differences remain, as well as he also talked about why the 4 global initiatives put forward by China matters to the world, especially the Global Civilization Initiative, and why or how China can continue to serve as a growth driver to the world. Let's take a listen.
Over the past 5 years, China's economy has achieved an average annual growth rate of 5.4%, with its total economic output surpassing 140 trillion yuan and per capita GDP exceeding 13,000 US dollars. Its contribution to global economic growth has remained at around 30%, continuing to serve as a major engine of the world economy.
Now, the message focused on China's role in that process. He emphasized that China will continue expanding high standard opening up and institutional opening up, and also stay committed to free trade. Following the keynote speech, other world leaders also addressed the forum. For example, chair of the forum, as well as former UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, puts forward a new initiative calling for Asia's regional collaboration. He talked about how we should fully leverage regional institutions such as AIIB or Asia's Infrastructure Investment Bank, and also bridging that regional development divide, leaving no one behind, and move forward with solidarity and confidence. And there's also Singaporean Prime Minister Lawrence Wong, who talked about China's technology innovation capability and what it means to the world. Let's take a listen.
China has placed science, technology, and innovation at the center of its development strategy. It is already at the forefront in key emerging areas, including digital and green technologies. More importantly, it's advancing innovation at scale, accelerating adoption and driving progress across industries. China is therefore well positioned not just to participate in the next wave of technological change, but to shape and lead this change.
That was the Singaporean Prime Minister ending that report by Dai Kai. The forum has said that Asia is overtaking the United States and Europe as the new center for artificial intelligence development. According to the 2026 annual report on Asian economic outlook and integration progress, Asia is building its digital resilience through the accelerated and inclusive adoption of AI. The report notes that Asian economies are transitioning from participants to frontrunners in the global AI race, leveraging their large digital populations, diverse application ecosystems, and coherent policy frameworks. Among those frontrunners, China stands out with a complete AI supply chain and strong capabilities for large-scale implementation. Asian businesses are seeking collaboration all over the world as AI investment continues to expand. Earlier, Aaron Leo spoke with Chairman Jack Perry of the 48 Group and Executive Chairman of LEC Robotics.
If you're analyzing investment, opportunity, technology is the umbrella that you're thinking about. But technology is so broad. So you've got to think, what areas in technology really have the opportunity? Or AI, obviously. The foundation of what you need in AI is data, expertise, and then labeling of that data, and then implementation. And then that lends itself to robotics. So those things that I would say are the places to focus on. Robotics and the evolution of AI.
AI is developing so fast. In the coming years, what real changes do you expect it to bring to our jobs, factory production, and the ways we do business?
If you're looking at where automation and AI is being used, you're seeing it really being used in factories. 2 years ago, I would go into a Chinese factory and there were no lights on. It was mainly just robotics or automation. But now the robotics are taking the opportunity to do different things within the automation. So being able to move fabric from one place to another on an autonomous forklift truck, these cleaning the floor, the whole ecosystem is being changed. And that's not just automation. Robotics is under the umbrella of automation.
That was Jack Perry of the 48 Group, also Executive Chairman of LEC Robotics. Another hot topic under discussion at the Boao Forum for Asia is humanoid robots. As they entertain humans most of the time, what many delegates care about is their role in real-life use. And Chen Tong has more.
Why is the waiting line for this panel so long? What's the big draw? The topic is humanoid robots. And robots are guest speakers. And surprisingly, some of the audience who are willing to spend time in line have nothing to do with the robots.
The possibility and the potential of this kind of technology being used in situations of crisis, and perhaps the intended or unintended consequences that states as well as civilian and even the military.
I work in the petrochemical industry, which is strongly introducing AI to the industry. We also hope humanoid robots can come to our factory and do some dangerous tasks that human staff are not suitable to do.
Humanoid robots can also be found elsewhere at the year's Boao Forum. But now, what they are mostly doing is entertaining attendees. Humanoid robots are still not being widely used.
Well, it's fun to see robots dancing, but I think what delegates really care about is how soon these robots can really offer some help in real life.
And this is exactly what gets talked about at the conference. When asked how far for the humanoid robots are from meeting the so-called ChatGPT moment, or important turning point, one guest gave the shortest prediction of only 2 years.
This point of time, we can clearly see the technical methods of the brain of the robots can come out. Then, with more data being collected, computing power being stronger, and we can achieve real income.
This turning point, as guests say, does not mean robots can enter the home.
It will be a long time, at least after 5 years.
But the home is the most complicated scenario. And for audience members we met at the panel, going for industrial use is not a distant dream.
That was Chen Tong reporting. China's announced plans to establish a basic long-term care insurance system within about 3 years, following pilot programs launched in 2016 and 20. Coverage will be universal, including all workers and residents. It'll integrate urban and rural areas, with participants drawing from a single fund. Standards will be unified across regions to ensure balanced responsibilities and benefits. And with more, Ding Hung spoke to Dr. Zhou Mi, a senior research fellow with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation.
Why does China call a nationwide long-term care insurance system a sixth pillar of the country's social security?
Well, I would say that normally people will talk about the three pillars, including the basic insurance, some of this supplementary insurance, and also some supported or bought by the people themselves. But if you are putting some more precisely, that the second and the third kind of pillars can also be divided in a more detailed kind of source. So this one is the sixth one. So I would say that the social security is a kind of a very important but also very difficult problem for every country to deal with. So no country can just escape from that. If you're looking at the practice of the Western countries, many of them are not having enough source of the abilities to support the peoples when they are old. So for China, I think that we are just trying to make some more efforts when we are able to work. We need to deposit at the first time, and when we're going to our aging society in the future, maybe we are able to use this money to take care of these people who are not able to care for themselves. I think it's not only about the money; it's about kind of a balance or rebalance of the liberals and the people's attentions to who should be cared.
So Chinese authorities have set a 3-year target to build a unified system covering the entire population, regardless of employment status, for example. Considering the track record of pilot programs in the past since 2016, do you think the 3-year target is a realistic goal?
Yes, it's a very challenging one for me. Honestly, I need to say that when we're trying to talk about the coverage of 1.4 billion people, so this is a really tough job. But I think that we do have some good bases. The good bases are, lied in two areas. The first one is that the data system is very important for us to know who should be taken care of and how much that people are earning. So based on that kind of database, we are able to just have some estimate about how much we can cover for the deposit right now. And second, I think it's also important for China's enforcement abilities. As we talked about the poverty reduction, that we promised to fulfill the target before the end of 2020s, and we really did that. I think it's a really amazing job. So many people are trying to learn from China how China accomplished such a difficult jobs in such short time. So I would say that it's an aim for us to reach, and I believe that based on this aim, we are able to trying to disassemble the targets into the annual targets, and I think it needs some efforts. But if we are having our healthy status of the development of the economy, we definitely will fulfill our targets.
That was Dr. Zhou Mi, a senior research fellow with the Chinese Academy of International Trade and Economic Cooperation. Coming up, Iran's denied having any direct ceasefire talks with the U.S., despite claims coming from Washington.
Pause Plus, a selection of the best podcasts in China, covering history, customs, music, literature, and in-depth dialogues. Find your way to a wealth of Chinese culture and thinking, all on Pause Plus.
14 past now. Iran says there have been no talks with the U.S. to end the war. Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says claims of such negotiations are an admission of defeat by Washington.
No negotiations have taken place so far. I state firmly that there has been no negotiation or dialogue with the American side. However, in recent days, the American side has begun sending various messages through different intermediaries. The fact that they are now talking about negotiations is, in itself, an admission of defeat. Were they not demanding unconditional surrender? So why are they now speaking about negotiations?
Iranian state media also quoted an anonymous official saying Tehran rejected the U.S. ceasefire proposal and laid out its own 5 conditions to end the fighting. They include a complete halt to aggression and assassinations, guaranteed payments of war damages, and recognition of Iran's sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz. Officials say these conditions are non-negotiable. Iranian military spokesperson Ebrahim Zolfagari has ridiculed the U.S. claims of negotiations.
Has the level of your internal discord reached a point where you are negotiating with yourselves? Our first and last word has been, is, and will be the same from day one. Someone like us will never come to terms with someone like you, neither now nor ever.
The remarks came after U.S. President Donald Trump claimed that Tehran is negotiating with the United States. U.S. President Trump claims Iran is eager to reach a deal, but it's afraid to say it publicly over fears of potential consequences. Washington has also deployed thousands of additional troops in the Middle East and warned Iran of escalation if it refuses to accept U.S. conditions to end the war. Walter Morris has details.
The White House says conversations with Tehran are productive and ongoing, and despite President Donald Trump's claims that the conflict is over, the U.S. is deploying thousands of additional troops to the region. During a briefing Wednesday, the White House press secretary gave an update and a warning. The Trump administration says the operation is ahead of schedule, and White House officials say the U.S. will hit harder if Iran doesn't accept their terms to end the war. Publicly, Iranian officials have been very critical of the U.S. proposal, stopping short of completely rejecting it. But Reuters reports that Tehran is still reviewing the Trump administration's 15-point plan. Officials say if talks do move forward, they may take place in Pakistan or Turkey. And as the conflict enters its fourth week, more U.S. troops are on the way to the Middle East. The Pentagon says it's sending 2,000 soldiers from the Army's 82nd Airborne Division to the region. That immediate response force will be able to deploy anywhere within 18 hours once they're in place. Now, they will join two contingents of Marines that are already on the way to the Gulf. 2,500 troops from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit are expected to arrive by the end of the month. Now, those forces could be used to seize Karg Island, a small landmass off the southwest coast of Iran, processes 90% of the country's oil exports. Now, Iran says non-hostile ships may pass through this Strait of Hormuz. In a statement to the UN Tuesday, Tehran said ships would be allowed to move through the strait as long as they don't participate or support acts of aggression against Iran and comply with security regulations. About 1/5 of the world's oil and natural gas travel through the Strait of Hormuz. Now, the strait has essentially been closed since the beginning of the conflict, with only a fraction passing through safely. Now, Trump is demanding Iran open the strait, but Tehran says that won't happen until the U.S. and Israeli attacks stop.
That was Walter Morris reporting. The New York Times reports that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's ordered more intense strikes on Iranian army industry facilities. The move comes amid Israeli concerns that U.S. President Donald Trump could abruptly end the war, as the possibility of negotiations between the U.S. and Iran increases. Jonathan Regev has more from Tel Aviv.
The sense in Israel regarding the possibility of ceasefire negotiations between Iran and the United States is one mostly of confusion. The Israeli leadership simply does not know if negotiations will take place, what kind of negotiations will take place, and what kind of an agreement will eventually be reached. That is why Israel is preparing for the possibility that some kind of a ceasefire agreement may be reached. Israeli media is reporting that the leadership in Israel is preparing for this to happen as early as this weekend, maybe Saturday, maybe Sunday. And in order to be ready for that, the Israeli security establishment has ordered the Air Force to speed up its operations against Iran in order to make sure that as many targets as possible are being hit before any kind of a ceasefire is reached. Israel is concerned that whatever the negotiations between Tehran and Washington may lead to, they may not necessarily take into account all of the Israeli demands. Israel is demanding not only the dismantling of the Iranian nuclear program and ballistic program, but also a stop of the Iranian assistance, both militarily and economically, to its proxies in the region, most notably Hezbollah. Will the United States put this as its top priority? Not so sure. That's also something that Israel is looking into. But more than anything, Israel is now speeding up its operations in Iran, understanding that maybe in a few more days, maybe 72 or 96 hours from now, the United States will say no, and then Israel, as reluctant as it may be, will have to stop.
That was Jonathan Regev assessing the Israeli sentiment over potential ceasefire negotiation. Several institutions have raised the risk of a U.S. recession, citing added downside pressures from the prolonged Middle East conflict. Moody's Analytics estimates a 48.6% chance of a recession within 12 months, while Goldman Sachs puts it at 30%. Under normal conditions, the risk is roughly 20%. Moody's warns that if high oil prices persist into the second quarter, the U.S. economy could enter a recession. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi's warned against escalating tensions in the Middle East, saying attacks on nuclear facilities would have catastrophic consequences. Wang met with International Atomic Energy Agency Chief Rafael Grossi in Beijing, urging an immediate ceasefire and a return to dialogue and negotiation. He stressed that China will uphold multilateralism and work with the agency to safeguard the global nuclear non-proliferation system. Grossi called for joint efforts to tackle global challenges while expressing readiness to deepen cooperation with China. As the oil crisis deepens, global energy security faces an unprecedented threat, prompting the emergency release of strategic oil reserves. Right now, 30 to 40% of Gulf refining capacity has been destroyed, cutting 11 million barrels per day from the market. In addition, 40% of Russian oil export capacity is offline following Ukrainian drone attacks. In Mexico, a major crude oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico has affected 165 kilometers of coastline. Japan's releasing nearly 80 million barrels of oil reserves starting Thursday, joining a record 400 million barrel coordinated drawdown by the International Energy Agency. It also stands ready to approve additional releases if Middle East tensions persist. Coming up, the UN General Assembly passes a draft resolution regarding slavery.
You've been listening to programs from CGTN Radio.
CGTN Radio.
We invite you to visit us online for more audio, pictures, and in-depth reports. At radio.cgtn.com, you can access a wide range of programs and find your favorite news, talk, features, entertainment shows, and podcasts. Hear the difference with CGTN Radio.
22 past the hour. The UN General Assembly has adopted a draft resolution declaring the trafficking of enslaved Africans and racialized chattel enslavement of Africans as the gravest crime against humanity. The resolution affirms the importance of addressing historical wrongs affecting Africans and people of African descent in a manner promoting justice, human rights, dignity, and healing. It also says claims for reparations represent a step toward remedying historical wrongs. Before the vote, Ghana President John Dramani Mahama said the resolution's adoption serves as a safeguard against forgetting while challenging the enduring scars of slavery.
On this beautiful day in March, we're called to stand on the right side of history. Let it be recorded that when history beckoned, we did what was right for the memory of the millions who suffered the indignity of the slave trade and those who continue to suffer racial discrimination. Let our vote on this resolution restore their dignity and humanity.
The resolution calls on UN members to engage in talks on reparatory justice. It also encourages voluntary contributions to promote education on the transatlantic slave trade. Tensions between Colombia and Ecuador have escalated following accusations by Colombian President Gustavo Petro that Ecuadorian military forces carried out a bombing near the border. The dispute comes a month after relations soured amid a trade war between the two countries. Michelle Begay has more from Bogota.
Colombia and Ecuador are moving farther from being friendly neighbors. The current dispute is over narco-trafficking operations near the two borders. The rift began over bombs found close to families on Colombia's side of the border, which President Gustavo Petro said were not from Colombia. Petro suggested the possible bombing had left behind 27 bodies. Ecuador denies the claims. Days later, Colombian Defense Minister Pedro Sanchez clarified that 14 bodies had been found in January after explosions in cocaine labs near the Ecuadorian border. He added Colombian and Ecuadorian authorities are together investigating whether national sovereignty was violated. The friction between Quito and Bogota comes as Ecuador has launched a military campaign backed by the U.S. against armed groups in the region. Ecuadorian President Daniel Noboa has flatly denied Petro's accusations, maintaining all strikes have occurred within Ecuador's borders. One Colombian expert says the U.S.-Ecuadorian alliance seems to be strictly for military purposes.
Entre la alianza
This alliance is very similar to what we had in our country. This can have positive effects in the short term, but will not be sustainable in the future, and can even generate a rise in violence in some regions of Ecuador and the boomerang effect in our Colombian borders.
The rift between the two countries has escalated in recent months, with Ecuador's president raising duties on Colombian goods to 50% in February. Noboa claimed Colombia was not doing enough to fight drug trafficking. One economist says these radical actions have ruptured regional integration by putting individual interests first. And he says this will not be helpful in a war on drugs.
Ecuador was sort of a beacon of hope in our Latin American attempts at integration in the past, and now it is the gravedigger of our integration. It was once going to be the center of the regional bloc of the Union of South American Nations.
Government officials say dialogue between the two countries will be held in Lima, Peru on March 25th and 26th. It will be mediated by members of the Andean community, which is a four-nation trade bloc comprised by Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru.
That was Michelle Begay on the growing discord between Colombia and Ecuador. Brazil is experiencing a pet boom, with dogs increasingly treated not just as animals, but as family. In cities like Sao Paulo, the shift is reshaping daily life, spending habits, and even careers. Cao Xuan reports.
From tiny Yorkshire Terriers to energetic Border Collies, dogs are everywhere, some wearing glitter or colorful bows. Even the dogs of street vendors and homeless people are clean and well-groomed, showing how deeply Brazilians care for their pets. Brazil has the world's third-largest pet population, about 160 million animals, including nearly 60 million dogs. That's more than 3 times the population of São Paulo state. Step into almost any shopping mall and you will find pet bakeries, jeweled collars, and even strollers for parks who don't like asphalt. Across Latin America, 3 out of 4 people now call their pets sons and daughters, helping drive a pet industry worth nearly $200 billion a year. But beyond shopping, the pet boom is reshaping daily routines and careers. Every morning at 9, Jessie walks dogs to a park where pets and children play safely together.
The dogs here are gentle with children. Some may jump excitedly, but it's always out of affection, never aggression. Our facility has multiple areas, larger grassy spaces for active dogs and smaller sections for more sensitive ones. Dogs get to run, play, and interact safely, while kids can enjoy their company too.
Dog walking has become a real profession in Brazil, with more than 1,000 walkers nationwide. Jessie now walks 8 dogs a day, enough to support herself. As apartments shrink and workdays grow longer, many owners rely on services like hers to keep their pets active and social. In Brazil's middle class, pets are often called filhos de 4 patas, 4-legged children. Marcelo, one of Jessie's clients, says his dog Gal is his closest companion.
She's the best thing in the world. She goes everywhere with me, to the gym, to lunch. She's a great life partner.
From glittered accessories to new services, Brazil's pet boom reflects changing families and urban lifestyles. In modern Brazil, dogs are no longer just pets, but companions, responsibilities, and for many, family.
That was Cao Xuan reporting, with contributions from Wang Ke Xuan. We're at 29 minutes past the hour. Checking the forecast ahead of the break in Beijing is cloudy. The low is 10 this evening, a high of 20 on Friday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall and a low of 11, followed by overcast skies and 19. Chongqing will see a light rain overnight and tomorrow with a low of 15, a high of 21, much the same in Nanchang. A light rain, 15 degrees tonight, cloudy and 21 tomorrow. Lhasa will be cloudy with a chance of some snow early tomorrow, a low of +2. The high on Friday is 10. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad's overcast and 15 this evening, then a high of 28. Vientiane will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25, a high of 39. And Phnom Penh's getting overcast conditions. It's down to 24 degrees, cloudy and 37 degrees Celsius on Friday. It's time for a short break. So far this hour, China's top legislator has addressed the opening plenary of the Boao Forum for Asia, calling for dialogue to resolve conflicts and respect for diversity. Iran says it has no direct ceasefire talks with the U.S., calling Washington's claims about negotiations an admission of defeat. The UN General Assembly has adopted a draft resolution regarding slavery and reparations. Shane Bigham with you. Stay with us here on the Beijing Hour.
Shh, listen up. Can you hear the heartbeat of our world? It's vibrant and pulsating with the essence of life itself. From the stem of trees to the gurgle of rivers, from the silent strength of mountains to the icy whispers of glaciers, even the solid ground beneath our feet. And right there, in the midst of all, beats the heart of humanity. What if those other heartbeats were to stop? Would ours keep on ticking?
Ever wondered what's actually going on in Africa through the perspective of an African? How are things really going between China and Africa? What's the narrative of this relationship? Well, get a perspective with China-Africa Talk. Hear from African diplomats, entrepreneurs, academics, Chinese natives, and more. Get on our wavelength every week to find out what's real with China-Africa Talk. Find us on your favorite podcast. We'll see you there.
Examining the events that impact and shape China and the rest of the world. This is the Beijing Hour, 1 hour of news and information brought to you every weekday. Now here's your host.
Shane Bigham with you on this Thursday. Still to come. In business, Chinese expert says artificial intelligence requires human partnership. In sports, checking out the opening round of the Miami Open. In culture and entertainment, Chinese movie locations continue to draw tourists from all over. To contact us, you can email radio@cgtn.com or follow our X account @CGTNradio. First, though, with a check of the day's headlines, here's Tianli.
Thank you, Shane. China's top legislator has called for global peace and stability. In his keynote address at the plenary of the Boao Forum for Asia Annual Conference 2026, Zhao Leji stressed the importance of respecting the sovereignty and territorial integrity of all countries. He added that the people of Asia deeply value peace and stability. Founded in 2001, the forum promotes regional economic integration and supports Asian countries in achieving their development goals. This year's conference carries the theme, Shaping a Shared Future, New Dynamics, New Opportunities, New Cooperation. China has announced plans to establish a basic long-term care insurance system within about 3 years, following pilot programs launched in 2016 and 20. Coverage will be universal, including all workers and residents. It will integrate urban and rural areas, with participants drawing from a single fund. Standards will be unified across regions to ensure balanced responsibilities and benefits. Japanese police have referred a 23-year-old self-defense force officer to prosecutors after he allegedly broke into the Chinese embassy in Tokyo. The suspect, identified as Kodai Murata, is accused of illegal entry after scaling the embassy wall on Tuesday. Police say he carried a knife and uttered threats. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian called for a thorough investigation into the incident. Japanese authorities say round-the-clock security is now in place at the embassy compound. Israeli media say the Navy commander of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has been killed in a strike. Ali Reza Tansiri was responsible for the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. On Tuesday, the Navy commander said any vessel transiting the strait must fully coordinate with Iranian maritime authorities. Following joint U.S.-Israeli strikes, Iran has tightened control over the strait, restricting passage for ships linked to Washington and Tel Aviv. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has described the Iran conflict as a catastrophe for economics globally. After a meeting with his Australian counterpart Richard Miles in Canberra, Pistorius said Germany does not want to get sucked into the conflict, calling for a diplomatic solution.
This is a huge risk for rising and increasing instability in the region, and that has always an impact, as we know from history, for the entire world. And therefore, we are ready to secure any peace if it comes to a point where we have a ceasefire, then we will discuss every kinds of operation to secure the peace, to secure especially the freedom of navigation during the Hormuz Strait. But this is not the time has not yet come, and therefore we appeal for a ceasefire as soon as possible.
Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said on Wednesday that his country has exchanged messages with the US through intermediaries over the past few days, while Tehran has held no talks with Washington since the war began. The US and Israel reportedly believe that the conflict could continue for another few weeks. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney says Ottawa is working with US officials to investigate the crash of an Air Canada jet in New York. The plane collided with a fire truck when landing at LaGuardia Airport, leaving 2 pilots dead and dozens of others injured. 72 passengers and 4 crew members were on board. The Air Canada CEO has expressed condolences to the victims' families. Carney says he's dissatisfied with the message as it is almost entirely in English, except 2 words in French, the second official language of Canada.
Companies like Air Canada particularly have a responsibility to always communicate in both official languages, regardless of the situation. I'm very disappointed in, as others are, rightly so, in this unilingual message of the CEO of Air Canada. It doesn't matter the circumstance, but particularly in these circumstances, lack of judgment and lack of compassion.
The U.S. National Transportation Safety Board is deploying a team of experts to investigate the incident.
All right, thank you very much. That's Tian Lu with headlines. And coming up in business, a Chinese expert says artificial intelligence requires human partnership.
The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
37 past. And with business now, here's Wang Zihang.
Thank you, Shane. Stock markets on the Chinese mainland closed lower on Thursday. The Shanghai Composite Index was down nearly 1.1%. The Shenzhen Component Index closed 1.4% lower. Shares related to oil and gas, batteries, coal and banking led the gainers. Photovoltaic, wind power, insurance and military industries suffered steep losses. Elsewhere, the Hong Kong stock market also finished lower. The Hang Seng Index was down about 1.9%. In Japan, Tokyo stocks also ended lower on Thursday, reversing earlier gains amid uncertainty over the outlook for the Middle East conflict. The Nikkei declined more than 0.2%. A leading Chinese software builder believes the future of intelligent systems should be a blend of human experts and AI automation. Digital Intelligence Business Director Zhuang Huaixuan of Yongyou Overseas made the remarks on the sidelines of the Zhongguancun Forum, which is ongoing in the Chinese capital. Speaking with Gao Yingshu, Zhuang said China's vast market and deep industrial data give it a real edge in AI applications, while the US continues to lead in foundational research. He also called on both sides to deepen cooperation for mutual benefit.
The United States and Chinese AI seems to be heading in increasing different directions. The United States doubling down on scaling general-purpose foundational models, while China is leaning more toward domain-specific models and deep industry integration. What do you think is driving such divergence?
That may be similar to other industries. The fundamental breakthrough is made in US. But in China, we really make the largest scale usage for the new technology. I think the major reason is we really have very large scale marketing. In the market, we can contribute so many different kind of scenario requirements that all needs AI to affect its value. And I think both sides are good. We are approaching to the same target. We are all trying to make AI useful and valuable. For example, in EU, actually, we accumulate 38 years experiments, and we have very rich industrial knowledge, and we will train our model with this knowledge. And that is very hard to replicate for other companies, and especially only by the general usage LLM.
China has a massive advantage in application layer data from manufacturing and logistics to mobile payments. Does this data ecosystem give Chinese AI a structural advantage in certain verticals, even if the United States maintains its lead in foundational research?
How to say? I think all the application, we rely on the breakthrough on the fundamental, but we also need application to prove the value from the fundamental breakthrough. I agree that in China, with such a massive market, we really have the full chain of the data from factory to the consumer, and we can contribute countless scenario and requirements that all the place AI can work. But I want to emphasize one thing, that only data advantage does not mean technology leadership directly. We still need other abilities to really make data work with AI together. For example, how to transform high-quality data into the industrial knowledge graph, and also how to maintain a data cycle to contribute more and more good data. That is why we always insist in the enterprise AI, we must build AI with data, or we can say knowledge, and with the process, three factors together in one system, one architect.
That was director Zhuang Haixuan with Yongyou Overseas. Now, humanoid robots are leaving labs for real-world use, but a lack of authentic data holds them back. Zhang Xiyan visited Beijing's first robotic data training center to see how this challenge is being tackled.
Remember the spectacular dance by humanoid robots at the 2026 Spring Festival Gala? That stunning performance signaled that a new robotic era is approaching. Walking into Beijing's first humanoid robot data training center, the first thing that caught my eye was the striking synchronization between humans and robots. Clearing dishes is no longer a chore for robots. Picking fruit, brewing coffee, and folding clothes have become routine. Their versatility owes much to the human trainers working behind the scenes. I met Chen Shudong, a human mentor for robots. Each day, he and his colleagues train robots on a wide range of tasks to collect movement data. He explained why real-world data is so crucial.
Once deployed in real environments, robots often struggle with friction, changing light, or background noise. Simulation data alone is not enough to train high-quality models. To bring robots into daily life, we need real-world data to drive the industry forward.
According to Chen, multimodal real-world data covering sight, sound, touch, and motion control acts as the essential fuel for training AI models, which serve as the robot's brain. AI firms and large model developers rely on this data to train their own systems. Using exoskeleton equipment, a data collector can gather around 200 data samples per day. But the work is far from repetitive. Chin gave the example of folding towels, a seemingly simple task that presents unexpected challenges.
A towel is a soft object. Every time you fold a corner, its shape changes completely. During data collection, we have to account for different towel types, colors, and sizes. That means collecting data from various operating scenarios. We also deliberately collect difficult cases, moments when the robot is likely to make mistakes, so the model can learn to correct itself.
A skilled data collector must understand how to break down movements and give clear instructions so robots can execute them successfully. As humanoid robots move toward mass production, the demand for data keeps growing. In just 1 year since its opening, Chen Shudong's training center has collected tens of thousands of hours of real machine data.
That was Zhang Xiyan reporting. China's construction machinery trade topped $11 billion in the first 2 months, up 31%. The growth was driven by a 33% surge in exports. Exports to Africa jumped 77%, while shipments to Oceania and Europe also saw strong growth. High-end and electric models, along with parts and excavators, led the gainers. The world's longest span double-deck suspension bridge, the Lion Ocean Link in southern China, has topped out its main towers. The 35-kilometer bridge connects Guangzhou and Dongguan with 16 double-deck lanes, setting 5 world records. Once completed, it will help establish a 1-hour living circle, boosting development across the Greater Bay Area. Construction on the new Guangzhou airport has begun. The project in Foshan has investment of over 41 billion yuan. It will feature 2 runways, a 260,000 square meter terminal, and 94 aircraft stands. The airport is designed to handle 30 million passengers annually. The current Guangzhou Baiyun International Airport is one of the busiest in China and a major aviation hub in the Pearl River Delta. A Los Angeles jury has delivered a landmark verdict against Meta and Google over claims their platforms harmed a young woman's mental health. Jurors found Instagram and YouTube were deliberately designed to be addictive, awarding the plaintiffs $6 million in damages. The companies which plan to appeal deny the claims. The ruling comes amid growing scrutiny of social media's impacts on children, with experts saying public concern has reached a turning point and could influence similar cases across the United States. German chemical giant BASF has fully launched its massive production complex in Guangdong province. It marks the largest single investment project wholly owned by a German enterprise in China. The 8.7 billion euro site spans 4 square kilometers in Zhanjiang. It now operates 32 production lines, turning out over 70 products for industries like transportation and electronics. The industry analysts say the move reflects the company's long-term commitment to China as the country continues to promote a higher standard of opening up. And finally, Thailand's 44th Tourism Festival is now open, showcasing the country's cultural and travel diversity. Organizers say the event features 9 zones, including 5 representing different regions and 4 focused on innovation and sustainability. The 5-day festival aims to turn discovery into travel inspiration. Officials add that the zones support regional development and create new opportunities for local communities.
Thank you very much. That's Wang Ziheng with Business. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in sports, checking out the opening round of the Miami Open.
Sideline Story brings you all things sports related. The hottest topics, latest events, juiciest stories, all with a very personal take. Subscribe to Sideline Story Podcast for heated sports discussions covering events that are happening in China and around the world.
47 past the hour now. With sports, here's Yang Guang.
Thank you, Shane. In tennis at the Miami Open, Jiří Lehečka is into the semi-finals after ending a fairy tale run of Spanish qualifier Martin Landaluce in straight sets. The Czech player edged the first set tiebreak before closing it out 7-5 in the second to reach his second Masters 1000 semi-final. He will next face Arthur Fils. On the women's side, Elena Rybakina battled back to beat American Jessica Pegula in 3 sets and reached the Miami semifinals for the 3rd time. Pegula took the opening set, but the reigning Australian Open champion turned the match around to stay dominant in their recent rivalry. That sets up a blockbuster semi-final against the world number 1 Aryna Sabalenka, who kept her Sunshine double bid alive with a victory over Hailey Baptiste. Sabalenka has now won 10 straight matches in Miami without dropping a set, and is in back into the Final 4 for the 2nd year running. And in the women's doubles, China's Zhang Shuai and her partner Alice Mertens saved 4 straight match points before pulling off a dramatic quarterfinal comeback to reach the semi-finals. China's under-23 men's football team rallied from 2 goals down to draw with Thailand 2-2 at an international youth tournament in Xi'an on Wednesday. Thailand took control in the first half with 2 goals, but China fought back after the break. Xiang Yuwang pulled one back in the 49th minute, and the substitute Li Xingxiang leveled the score in the 67th. Head coach Antonio Pucci Vincenti said the tournament is an opportunity to evaluate the players as they build toward the upcoming Asian Games. China will next face North Korea, which drew with Vietnam earlier on Wednesday. Li Chengyang from Shandong province has set a new Chinese national record in men's pole vault. He cleared 5.86 meters at the National Pole Vault Series in Shanghai on Wednesday. The mark improves the previous record by 1 centimeter, a height Li had jointly held with Huang Bokai. The 22-year-old has now won all 4 stops of the domestic series this season. In February, he took silver at Asian Indoor Athletics Championships. Italy will host Northern Ireland in the World Cup qualifying playoff semi-final with their hopes of reaching the 2026 finals hanging by a thread. The four-time world champions missed out on the World Cup finals in 2018 and 22. Now they are trying to avoid a third straight failure to reach football's biggest stage. Head coach Gennaro Gattuso says the weight of expectation is impossible to ignore.
For 7 months, before I go to sleep and in the morning when I wake up, I hear people saying, "Take us to the World Cup, take us to the World Cup, take us to the World Cup." I think this is definitely the most important match of my career. I've been coaching for a few years, but it's definitely the most important match.
Northern Ireland, meanwhile, is chasing the first World Cup finals appearance in 40 years. Head coach Michael O'Neill says his young side will play without fear.
I have a lot of belief in this group of players. It'll be a young team that will take the field. I think the benefits you get with youth is a lack of fear. We have everything to gain in the game. There's no doubt about that. So I don't worry about that side of this team. They've already gone to, big games where we played Germany and Cologne, away in Slovakia. They've handled those situations well.
Northern Ireland has lost all 7 previous away meetings with Italy and has struggled historically to score against Azzurri. In another playoff, Turkey will host Romania in Istanbul with both sides just 2 wins away from reaching the finals. Turkey aims to return to the World Cup after missing out in 2022, while Romania is chasing its first appearance on football's biggest stage since France 1998. Turkey coach Vincenzo Montella says his side understands the size of the moment.
As a coach and for me, this is a crucial match. We are getting closer to the big dream we all have as a group, but also as a country. We've been so many years away from the World Cup, and we have all the energy we need to put in a good match tomorrow, to play a complete match, because we'll need to play a complete match. I don't think it will be a one-sided match, but I think there will be moments when we also have to be prepared to defend and suffer as a group.
Romania, though, will arrive with confidence despite injury concerns. Head coach Mircea Lucescu says he still believes in his squad.
All right, thank you very much. That's Yang Guang with sports. You're listening to the Beijing Hour. Coming up in culture. Chinese movie locations continue to draw tourists from all over.
From north to south, east to west, people in China are chasing their dreams and leaving their mark. Want to know how they beat the odds and made a difference? Footprints brings you the true life stories of their journeys.
52 past, and turning to culture and entertainment. China's film industry is fueling a travel boom, and the world is taking notice. Film locations across the country have become must-visit destinations this spring, drawing domestic tourists and international attention. Liu Xiaomin has more.
In southwest China's Yunnan province, the hit movie Panda Plan, The Magical Tribe, has turned its filming locations into popular spring travel spots. One of the main filming sites is Wengding Village in Cangyuanhua Autonomous County. Tourists across the country arrive at the village via special panda-themed trains, aiming to retrace the journey seen in the film. Visitors take photos of scenes from the movie while immersing themselves in traditional Wa ethnic cultural activities.
Coming to Cangyuan, I feel this place is truly beautiful. The scenery is beautiful and the Wa people are even more wonderful. I've only stayed here for a short time, but I've already fallen in love with it.
Blending cinematic storytelling with local ethnic culture, the film has also drawn visitors beyond the Chinese mainland to visit Yunnan.
I know that the panda is China's national treasure. So I think it's a very interesting story, a mix of adventure, fantasy, and comedy. After watching this movie, it really makes me want to visit Yunnan province.
Other major Chinese film releases have also sparked a strong interest among viewers in Macau. Many express hope to visit filming locations across the mainland to experience unique landscapes and culture.
I just watched Blades of the Guardians and I thought it was great. The action scenes were very exciting. I also learned that it was filmed on location in Xinjiang and the scenery looked magnificent. I hope I'll have the chance to travel to Xinjiang this year.
At the 2026 ITB Berlin Tourism Trade Fair earlier this month, China showcased how movies and tourism can work together to promote destinations. Promotional videos connected scenes from major films with real locations across the country, allowing viewers to experience different parts of China in just a few minutes.
I think this is a very innovative approach. By using films, media, and cultural storytelling, destinations become more appealing and closer to visitors, which can really spark their interest.
China's total box office revenue has already surpassed 11.6 billion yuan in 2026, and that's over $1.68 billion US. As China's film industry continues to expand, traveling to destinations seen in movies is expected to become a lasting trend and a new driver of economic growth.
That was Liu Xiaomin on film locations becoming new tourist attractions in China. More than 200 universities and educational institutions from 26 countries and regions will take part in the China International Education Exhibition Tour 2026. The event runs from April 10th to the 20th across 5 cities. That includes Beijing, Shanghai, and Chengdu. Organizers say the exhibition aims to help families access reliable study abroad information. The tour will also reach universities across the country to help students connect with global education opportunities. On-site consultation services will focus on employment and entrepreneurship for returning overseas students. Organizers will also launch an upgraded national employment service platform for overseas returnees during the event. And this year's Art Basel Hong Kong has held its preview at the city's Convention and Exhibition Center, bringing together 240 galleries from 41 countries and regions. The fair is open to the public from Friday to Sunday. And this year's fair introduces a new sector called Echoes, featuring works created within the past 5 years. The cabinet sector presents 35 thematic exhibitions spotlighting art from various historical periods across the Asia-Pacific. Hong Kong Culture Secretary Rosanna Law also announced a deal that secured Art Basel Hong Kong as the fair's exclusive Asian home through 2031. Founded in Basel, Switzerland in 1970, Art Basel launched in Hong Kong as a special edition in 2013. 57 past now. Checking the forecast before we go. Beijing is cloudy. The low is 10 this evening, 20 degrees on Friday. Shanghai will see a light rainfall and a low of 11, followed by overcast skies and 19. Chongqing's getting a light rain tonight and tomorrow, a low 15, high of 21. Much the same in Nanjing, with a light rain in 15, then clouds in 21. Lhasa will see cloudy conditions and a chance of some snow early on tomorrow, a low of +2. The high is 10 on Friday. Elsewhere in Asia, Islamabad will be overcast and 15, then a high of 28 on Friday. Vientiane will be cloudy tonight and tomorrow, a low of 25 and a high of 39 degrees. And that's it for this edition of the Beijing Hour. Making news today, China's top legislator has addressed the opening plenary of the Boao Forum for Asia, calling for dialogue to resolve conflicts and respect for diversity. The UN General Assembly has adopted a draft resolution on slavery and reparations. On behalf of the staff, this is Shane Bigham in the Chinese capital, hoping you'll join us for the next edition of the Beijing Hour and open a window to the world together.
Find the Beijing Hour at precisely 6 p.m. Beijing time. We meet you on podcast and on air every weekday. The Beijing Hour, your window on China and the rest of the world.
He can't live without the yellow river in his eyes.
The yellow river is so noble and elegant.
Both my grandpa and dad made a living from the river.
Would you like to move away from the Yellow River?
I don't think I will. I love it so much.
The Yellow River, the second longest river in China, is regarded as a shaping force in the history, economy and culture of northern China. Today, about 100 million people live within its water basin, making up nearly 9% of the country's population. How is climate change felt at its headwaters, and what are the locals doing to cope with it? What are the descendants of the boatmen doing? What has kept some people from leaving their home village by the river, and what has drawn others back? Could the fading fishing community revive in a time of digital transformation? From 2021 to 2024, our reporters visited the upper, middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River, talked to the herders, farmers, boatmen, fishermen and eco-activists who share a close bond with the river, and present their stories in pictures, podcasts and videos, all in our 12-part series, The Yellow River Mosaic, available only on CGTN Radio